From Software loves to tell very dark and mysterious stories.
The fallen leaves tell a story.
But Elden Ring brings it to a whole new level with George R.R. Martin's involvement.
The great Elden Ring was shattered.
The story is much more thorough and interconnected this time around.
In our home, across the fog, the lands between.
The player is given the freedom to engage the story in their own way.
Now, Queen Marika the Eternal is nowhere to be found. And in the night of the Black Knives, Godwyn the Golden was first to perish.
There is an absolute abundance of lore to dig through.
Soon, Marika's offspring, demigods all, claimed the shards of the Elden Ring.
One could speculate for hours on tiny details of the story.
The mad taint of their newfound strength
The story goes deep,
triggered the shattering.
and for those willing to put in the effort, it can be incredibly satisfying to unravel the mystery.
A war from which no lord arose. A war leading to abandonment by the greater will. Oh, rise now, ye tarnished, to stand before the Elden Ring.
What is Marika's plan? Which ending is really the good ending? What even is the Elden Ring? You can fully explore these types of questions. But you could also go full roleplay and just make up half the lore as you go. Maybe you are a strength dex weapon master who only cares about weapon description. Playing a strength build with no int? Maybe your character can't read. That's the best part of how the story is presented. Completely optional, but there for those who want it, and the rabbit hole goes really deep. Right from the start, not only is the tutorial optional, but there's also an optional dungeon before you even open the door to the open world. Piecing together the fragmented story and unraveling the mystery of what actually happened to this shattered, crumbling world can really add to the enjoyment of the game. The freedom allotted to the player in Elden Ring is something becoming unfortunately rare in games nowadays. Your only obvious directions are a suggestion from an unfriendly NPC, a golden trail coming off the site of Grace, and a gigantic golden tree off in the distance.
Oh, yes. Tarnished, are we? Come to the lands between for the Elden Ring? Unfortunately for you, however, you are maidenless. Without guidance, without the strength of runes, and without an invitation to the Round Table Hold, you are fated, it seems, to die in obscurity. Take care to listen. Are you familiar with Grace? A path that a tarnished must travel, even if it leads you to your grave. Castle Stormvale on the cliff, where Grace...
Despite the freedom, the game gives you a few nudges in the right direction.
Maidenless as you are.
There's also a strong field boss between you and your obvious next destination. This is meant to teach you that not everything has to be faced as soon as you run into it. Most players will immediately go to the Church of LA, the game's first hub area, and meet Kale, the game's first merchant.
You're a tarnished. I can see it. And I can also see that you're not after my throat. Then why not purchase a little something? I am Kale, purveyor of fine goods.
From this point, players can either wander around and stumble upon things themselves, or just follow the Grace path and run into Melina. Despite the freedom, the game gives you a few nudges in the right direction, but mostly relies on you to be motivated to explore, which it does a great job of through obvious landmarks. This is where the game's rewarding exploration begins to shine. If the player decides to explore first, they are rewarded with another merchant,
What do you need?
some easy side dungeons, and some good loot.
Greetings, traveler from beyond the fog. I am Melina. I offer you an accord.
Once the player has Torrent, the game
Treat him with
really
respect.
opens up, and Limgrave becomes a sort of microcosm of the rest of the game.
I've been testing you. It seems my worries were unfounded. Very well, let my hand rest upon you for but a moment.
You can spend as little as a few or as much as 20 hours in Limgrave alone, but eventually you are directed towards Stormvale, and the game's first power or skill check,
If the
Margit.
rays of grace signal the castle, then the Elden Ring beckons you. As an ally by pact, I pray that you are fit to face the challenge presented by the ring.
Foul tarnished. In search of the Elden Ring.
Taking the main gate goes about as well as expected, so we decide to take the side entrance. The legacy dungeons are the cherry on top of each area, acting as a power and knowledge check. These dungeons are a throwback to old FromSoft level designs and are really where Elden Ring shines, in my opinion. These dungeons are incredibly rewarding in terms of loot and runes, but also in terms of exploration. There are hidden paths and secrets around every corner, so many in fact, there were some I didn't discover until my third or fourth playthrough. One thing the game does extremely well is drip feeding the player the true scale of the world. Instead of showing the whole map right away and filling out as you explore, it slowly eliminates the fog and zooms out as you explore, only coloring in the map once you obtain the map fragment. The exploration is made even better because of the absolutely stunning scenery, vibrant color schemes, and mesmerizing atmospheric music. The game even subverts the player's expectation by teleporting them around and into a completely unexplored part of the map. The minimal direction works so well because of how well the game entices you to explore naturally. The game frames the scenery in a way as to make you go, "Oh wow, I wonder what that is," and then get sidetracked for an hour making your way to it. This subtle direction through landmarks encourages curiosity-driven exploration rather than just checking something out because of a marker on your map or a checklist in your quest log. Pretty much wherever you go, anywhere you look, the scenery could legitimately be a painting. And then there is the music. The background music for each area is so distinct, downright hypnotizing or creepy at times. These tracks really mesh with the color scheme of each area and make the game incredibly immersive. The sense of immersion you get in this game cannot be understated. It is unlike nearly anything I've ever felt. It's almost as if the whole game takes place in a dream. Next, I'd like to touch on the combat, the core gameplay loop, or the meat of the game. The two major things I want to touch on here that have been added since previous games are the jump mechanic and the crouch mechanic. Both add a ton of depth and complexity to the combat system and makes it very, very fluid. As you can see here, all I'm doing is showing off some of the moves, how crouches work, how jumps work, jump light attacks. You can continue a combo. And then there's jump heavies. Now let's see how the game looks when you put some of this knowledge to use. First, some cool looking jump attacks. Nothing special here. Even some creative ways you can use the verticality to your advantage. Especially if you want to get revenge on those birds from earlier. You can even do some cool stuff with angling your jumps. Now let's talk about hitboxes. One of the things that makes this game's combat very distinct. I've included this fight with the pumpkin head here just to showcase what I'm talking about when I mean hitboxes. Notice how I'm doing mainly crouch attacks because it hits low. As you notice, when I hit the helmet, it does way less damage and makes a different sound. So you really have to know where your hitboxes for your moves are. Now here's some example of hitbox manipulation that can lead to some crazy situations. Everything from ducking under hits to sometimes jumping over them. And man, did these feel badass to pull off. Sometimes you even get some weird stuff. But it's not always fun in games. Sometimes you get screwed. Or your weapon hits a wall. I included this fight just to sort of showcase what the combat can look like once you start to get a hold of what you're doing. Using jump attacks, jumping over hitboxes, aiming specifically at the knight rather than the horse. Slow and steady, but it can be done. Just a couple more hits here. There we go. Hell yeah. Now to discuss the power scaling, or power fantasy. This game makes you feel incredibly powerful, and then when you add the ragdoll physics to the enemies on top of it, sometimes you just feel like a god. Hey, remember these guys? Easy. Remember these birds from Caelid? No problem. Not today, bird. Yeah, you stay down. Now this is the beginning of my Dex character. I was messing around with Quickstep, getting used to it. Dex characters really show how you can manipulate hitboxes. Yeah, you used to be tough, not anymore. Now, outsmarting enemies as a mage. Now, who doesn't love a dragon fight in a fantasy game? Here are some clips of me taking out dragons. Feeling so badass. How to kill a dragon in 30 seconds. The last thing I want to talk about, and what really keeps me hooked on the game, is the replayability. Due to Elden Ring's massive size and lack of New Game Plus changes, this is definitely a weak point in terms of the single player experience. It can easily become tedious if all you are doing is going through New Game Plus cycles with the same character. This is why I think the aspects of the game that best promote replayability are build variety, missable content, and co-op/PvP. The main reason I've beaten the game so many times is because of build variety. My first character was a mage that I later turned into a balanced stat spread so I could use anything I found. After becoming familiar with the available weapons and spells, I chose a few I really wanted to make a build around and started a new character. They don't always turn out as planned, but that's part of the fun. The huge scale of the game adds to the fun of approaching the game like this. There's so much optional content that without guides, barely anyone would find everything in their first or even second playthrough. Some people will likely miss whole areas such as Nokron, Ruin-Strewn Precipice, or even the Halig Tree. I'm still finding things like Miquella's Lilies, Arteria Leaves, or even rare drops I didn't know existed. The real meat and potatoes of why this game is so replayable is the co-op and player versus player interactions. Even if you are done with the game, you can always drop a summon sign and help other Tarnished with some of the harder endgame bosses, or better yet, use the password summoning feature to go through the game with a friend. Co-op can be a great way to get introduced to the part of the game that makes it truly infinitely replayable, and that's the PvP. Since you can be invaded during co-op, it is a great jumping off point for anyone who hasn't tried it, or are simply intimidated by the thought of it. Invasions can seem daunting at first due to them requiring a lot of game knowledge, such as level layouts, which weapons and spells do what, etc. But in my opinion, invasions are the real endgame and truest test of game mastery. Once you begin doing invasions, a whole other aspect of the game opens up to you, and it's wonderful. Although they aren't perfect, they are hands down some of the most fun you can have with a video game. That's all I'll say about PvP for now. I'll talk about more in another video. For now, just enjoy seeing the rest of my characters, and I will have some clips at the end of the video. To finish off the video, I've included some funny clips, a little bit of everything, some PvE fails, some arena fails, and one of my favorite invasions I've ever had. So, enjoy. Wait, what? Oh, come on. Yeah, you've got to be kidding me. Got you. What is that? Whoa. Oh, hey, I could probably use this. Oh, cool. Watch a guy get outplayed 8 times in a row. Where's my bubble? Where's my bubble? Oh, you forgot about it. Oh, there it is. Bow versus boulder. Which will win? And it's the bow. Who will win? Me. Yeah, this invasion was fantastic. I'm out of flasks. Barely any HP or FP. Host is fat rolling. Summon is clearly overleveled. In my last ditch effort, I teleport away to get my footing again. Take my time setting up. What was that? Oh, I just got 12,000 runes. Oh, did he die? Oh, yeah, he did. Oh no, you almost got me. I'm almost dead. Wah wah.